the Author to Authority podcast, and today I have on the show Karen Porter, and she is a holistic nutrition and wellness coach. She is also a registered holistic nutritionist, and today she's going to be sharing some really valuable advice, hints, and tips, especially if you're 45 years old or older. Now, she predominantly works with women, but from our discussions, I'm pretty sure if you're a man listening to it, the things that she's going to share are going to help you as well. You know, when you hit that 45 age-ish section of your life, things do start to change. You know, I will be hitting the big 50 next year. And people say to me, why are you smiling? I'm like, because I'm 50, I'm young, I'm enjoying life, man. I'm free. Why wouldn't I celebrate it? And around the 45, I did notice some things started to change in my life, and I had to do some things differently. I wasn't getting old, but there was changes. And so that's why I'm excited to have Karen on here today, because she, first of all, is an entrepreneur. So she understands what being an entrepreneur is like. Like the rest of us, she has now had to transition to working from home. I know that she was on a major television show. It was last week, right, Karen?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to get her to talk about that. But what she does is she has a heart to see people live a good, strong, healthy lifestyle, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. So Karen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Kim.
So Karen, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and don't forget to talk about your recent television experience.
Sure. So, yes, as you mentioned, I love helping women over 45. It really is the age where we are starting to feel differently. We can't always do things the same way we used to. And that's my age group as well. I'm 54 next month, and yeah, very much like you,
Happy
Kim.
birthday.
Yeah, thank you. Very much like you, I feel good about it. I think, wow, I feel so much younger than I am. And just with the vitality, it just feels so good. And I love to share that with people. Mm-hmm. And the reason I feel so strongly about it is really because of my background and my experience. And that's what led me to what I'm doing now. So I really, had experienced a lot of pain and discomfort for a lot of years. And, people know, I've got it on my website. People know that I've experienced IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, and depression. But it really was not until the last year that I got into the details of that. Because, for some people, they might just think, oh, well, you've had periods of sadness or something. But it really went as far as hospitalizations. Mm-hmm. So, I say that, and it said, I love you all. I'm so sorry. And, I think that hits home with people. They really understand, the extent to where I was at. Mm-hmm. And, I said when Robin Williams committed suicide, the people, everyone was shocked and wondering why, because mm-hmm. I had everything. I had a wonderful husband, beautiful children, cars and home and everything. But behind my beautiful life really was a secret that, yes. Until recently had never been told. I had been, as I said, I had the discomfort of IBS. so, pain and bloating was kind of my, what I experienced every day.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say that I would take that in a heartbeat over the severe bouts of, of depression. And it's like, it's hard to understand because it's even foreign to me now, but it's like being a prisoner in your own mind. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And on those periods of time when it was really bad, I would have, severe anxiety, and then the sleep and eating was affected. And, when you haven't slept well in for a day or two, you know how you feel. But when
Yes.
it goes on for weeks and months, like your brain, is really affected.
Yeah.
And, nutrients were just not staying in my body. And then I was not getting the rest and rejuvenation that I needed. Right. And so it felt like, my brain was no longer functioning properly. Well, no, it didn't feel like it actually was.
It wasn't.
That's right. That's right. And so, memory started to fail, and I wasn't able to do things that I used to. I wasn't thinking clearly. Yeah. And then there was that whole failure thing, right? So I'm
Yes.
failing as a mother, I'm failing as a wife, I'm failing at my job. And then it just starts to spiral down. And it's hard to imagine how and why it gets so bad. But it just does. And as I said, in my state now, I can't even, it's almost hard for me to go back, but I can when I review
Yes.
what I've been through. And so it's important for me now to, to help other women.
Mm-hmm.
So you may not, you may not have had IBS or severe bouts of depression, but there's a lot of people, a lot of women that can relate to, some parts of that experience. Maybe they've got bloating discomfort, or they feel heavy, maybe your skin is not so great, or your joints don't feel so good, or
You're
maybe
premenopausal.
yeah. And maybe your mood is just low, or you've got mood swings. And yes, it even more so, in perimenopause and menopause, these things come about. But for me, it was kind of, something that started in my 20s and went right up until my mid 40s. And then after the last time it happened, I thought, oh my gosh, I have to get over, I have to get over the stigma. I have to deal with this, because
Yes.
What if next time there's no one around, to save me?
Yeah.
If my husband wasn't, around, or, something. So I really had to dig into it. And I would say through all of those years, even though I sought some help, I was pretty much in a cocoon, right?
Yes.
Because of the stigma, right? Even one time when I was in the hospital, a nurse said to me, "How could you do such a thing? You have children." And, and I totally understand that now. But the thing is that, it's not a rational person that attempts to take their life, right?
No.
It's not. And I understand that it is hard to understand. I totally get that. But that person does not, is not making sense of the situation, and only knows that they want to get out of their pain. So, what I learned was that it's not your fault, and it's not just about willpower and trying to change things, but it is about your food and lifestyle, but also the power of belief and your mindset. Mm-hmm. And putting all those tools together is really what helped me to improve. And then what I, went on and, went back to school and studied and wanted to share with so many people.
And I think, when you're suicidal, you are totally convinced that your children, your husband, the world is better off without you.
That's right. That's right.
And you can't see, or you're not willing to recognize the amount of pain that you're going to cause them, because that would stop you from doing what it is you want to do.
Right.
So you justify it by saying, by believing that,
Believing.
oh, my
Yeah.
children would be, I'm a horrible mom, my kids would be better off without me. If I
Yeah.
wasn't here, my husband could marry a good wife, right? Like,
Right.
those are the things
Yeah.
that you say to yourself. And it doesn't matter what other people say.
Right.
That's a belief system that you have, and it's hard
Right.
to conquer.
Yeah. And the guilt and shame just, just intensifies it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had my brother said to me, I would trade my life with you in a minute, because he's got a daughter with, a lot of health issues. And so, but at that time when I was experiencing that low, that just made me feel worse. Do you know what I mean? Because you think, why? I have everything. What is wrong with me? But
Yeah.
the worst part is you can't escape your brain, right?
No.
No, it doesn't matter if you go somewhere else.
And the things I've learned is
Go with you. So yeah.
Thing I've learned is things don't make you happy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
There's this perception, especially in North America, if you have that big house, if you have that right car, if you have the right job, if you have the right clothes, if you have the right spouse, if you have these perfect kids, then you can be happy. But
Right.
those things never make you happy.
Right.
Happiness has got to come from within yourself
And
and being content with what you have in the way the world is. And it doesn't mean that you don't dream of things or that you don't work towards having a better life or maybe even some nicer things, but you recognize that those nicer things don't make you happy.
that's right. Yeah. Well, if you look at, actors and movie stars and or you look at, any of them, they have all the money, and things that they could want. And yet, there's still, there still could be issues. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And a lot of it has to do with the, what we feed our brains, mentally.
Yes.
So when I talk about power of belief and mindset, but it also has to do with our physiology. So,
Mm-hmm.
So much, has been researched and found out about the gut and the state of the gut, and then the brain gut connection. So
Yes.
in all those years when I was going through it, my doctor obviously was treating and medicating my IBS, which was, by the way, not really helping, right? I mean, it's just symptom management that didn't work even that well. But even at that time, he didn't know about, the gut-brain connection.
Yes.
And the fact that something was going on there was also affecting my brain, right? So for me, that's a really important thing to get out there.
Well, to me, it makes sense. I mean, your brain is chemically run, predominantly, chemically and electrically run. And so where do the chemicals in your body come from? They come from what you eat. So
Right.
as your gut digests, it's releasing those chemicals, it's releasing different things. So if your
Mm-hmm.
gut's out of whack, then the
Yeah,
things that your brain needs is not getting it either, right?
that's
So
right. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I know that you've come prepared with three really powerful things that you want to teach. And I know women over 45, but like I said, I think what you teach, men can easily adapt and use themselves. And even though men do not go through menopause, you cannot tell me that men do not hit a middle stage of life where things change. I know for a fact they
That's
do.
right. Yes.
I actually joked with my husband the other day. I said to him, okay, so if women go through menopause, do men go through womenopause?
Go through menopause. That's right. I know. Why is it menopause, right? Yeah, and we whether it's a particular label like menopause, we all, regardless of gender, we all have our metabolism slowing down as we age, right? And so and we're aging. There's things that in our body and our brain that are taking place that,
Yes.
Obviously is going to, affect us. So yes, men similarly. And so my first thing would be, you've really got to do these things for yourself. So the nutrition, the lifestyle changes and mindset really you have to do for yourself. And especially I surmise that that men feel some guilt too, but I really feel it's bigger with women. There's the mom guilt if you have children. There's just, I don't know. I think it's something innate in us that you always feel like you should be doing more or better at something, and so we put a lot of effort into other people, right?
Yes.
Especially females, but I'm sure a lot of males are nurturers as well. But yes, we're looking after the household and the kids and everything else, and the career. The women tend not to, spend that time on themselves. They think it's selfish, right? And so, the biggest thing is, it's something that you need to do for yourself, because you just, you do need to do it for yourself, but also it benefits other people in your life, right? So
yeah, I think it's the most unselfish thing you can do, and that is take care of yourself.
Exactly. And when you fill up your cup, you're able to, to fill others as well. So you're just a better person when you're looking after yourself. So, I say that is so important, and regardless of what other people think. So, I know oftentimes that when we make changes either to our food or to our lifestyle, whether that's for lifestyle for me is activity, quality sleep management, but especially with something like food or exercise, if you're trying to get everybody in the family or everybody in the household to do it, sometimes it's very difficult, right? Even for a spouse, but you've got to do it for yourself first. And then, maybe eventually others will jump on board. So, and that kind of ties into, doing it for yourself kind of ties into what I call my non-negotiables. Now, I'm not about perfection. I call myself a recovering perfectionist. But my non-negotiables are really, I try as hard as possible to have, to set my morning how I want it. And this is something that's evolved from, my experience as well as, my training. But really the first 30 minutes to an hour of my morning are really how I set up my day. So this is the mindset and the lifestyle part. And it's really, setting up my day with beginning with some silent time, some meditation and gratitude. So those things, and a portion of that for exercise. So every day might not look the same, but it just sets up my day for how I want it to go, rather than waking up and watching the news and being on my phone like I used to, right? And because you're putting all of that, possibly negativity into your brain first thing in the morning. And I've just noticed such a difference in changing that up. So that to me is very, very important. And, like the 80-20 rule with your food, right? And because it's not about perfection, but trying to eat 80% of the time, with the best quality foods. And that brings into really my third point, which is with every meal or snack, I don't count calories. I don't count grams, or, I will look at a portion size and, have a reasonable portion. But the biggest thing I think about is incorporating healthy fat, protein, and fiber. So even if I'm having a snack in the afternoon, like if I, first I'll be drinking water throughout the day, and then I'm gonna have an herbal tea.
Yes.
Because that's just a different flavor than the water. But and then I kind of assess, am I really hungry? And then if I am hungry, okay, I'm going to have a snack, but I want it to have protein and healthy fat. So even if I had an apple, I would put some cinnamon on it because that's a blood sugar stabilizer. And I would either have nuts with it or nut butter, right? Like almond butter or something. So that's just an example, or an energy ball or something like that.
Yeah.
But as I said, with each of my meals, I'm going to make sure that I have, those things, because then we're going to avoid the blood sugar roller coaster of, feeling great for the first half hour that you have something, like a pastry or a bagel or a sweet thing or potato chips or anything, but then you're going to feel that slump after, right?
Yes.
So we want to avoid that, and just incorporating those things helps us do that.
So Karen, let me ask you a question. What is considered healthy fats?
Okay, great question. So a healthy fat is something like the oils that we choose. So the best oils are like coconut oil, olive oil, and avocado oil, or things like avocados, nuts and seeds. Those type of things are, really are healthy fats.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the proteins, I think everybody knows the meat sources of proteins, but what we don't think about are, beans, chickpeas, lentils, we've got eggs. So, there's
Cheese?
Yeah. Now, I don't eat, I tend to eat, if I'm having cheese, I tend to have goat's milk cheese, because it's actually easier to digest than cow's milk. And the other thing is just, keeping in mind that a lot of people do have issues with lactose intolerance. And even if you don't have gut issues like I did, like, where it's obviously a gut issue, things that we eat can affect different things, right? So you could be to dairy, to the lactose, and not really realize it, but you've got sore joints, or your skin isn't, is breaking out, or, there's a lot of different things, or you get headaches, or, so many different things. Yeah.
Awesome. And what would you consider to be good sources of fiber?
Okay, so good sources of fiber. Now, when I say fiber, a lot of people will say, but the macronutrients, if you think of it that way, are fat, protein, and carbohydrates, right? Now, I didn't mention carbohydrates, but when I say fiber, I'm referring to fiber-rich carbohydrates.
Okay.
So our fiber-rich carbohydrates are like our leafy greens, our vegetables, our root vegetables, and our fruit. If your body is okay, whole grains, but you need to be careful with that, because you might think a loaf of bread that says 12 grain is good for you, but it's really been refined, and you've got to look at the other ingredients in it, right? So we've kind of been health washed or brainwashed by the food industry, which leads us to believe that things are healthy, but really we've got to look at it. So when I don't look at, all of the percentages, but I will look at sugar, because sugar is the thing that we do want to really minimize. So I will look for minimal ingredients, right, if I'm buying a packaged good. But yeah, whole grains like oatmeal, or there's so many new flours, at least they're kind of new, becoming more mainstream. So things like coconut flour, or chickpea flour, or almond flour is another really great one, because you're getting the healthy fat and protein from the almonds without a lot of grains, right? So so those are some examples there.
Now, is there a difference between like the refined sugar and the sugar that you find in fruits and vegetables?
Yes, definitely. So for some people, like for like diabetics, or if you're really trying to, lose weight, you want to sort of minimize the amount of fruit you're having. So like one serving a day, or maybe 1 to 2 servings a day, of a small amount of fruit. But yes, the natural sugars found in fruit and a little bit in vegetables are very different from our refined sugars. And so when I do my cooking workshops, or, even for myself, the way I eat, I'm always, I look for substitutions. I'm all about the quality. So I will say, okay, you could have this sort of treat, but what if we make it with 70% cacao or dark chocolate? And what if I put in maple syrup, or pure unpasteurized honey? Or if you want even a higher level, it's something like stevia or stevia, or lakanto, which is monk fruit, right? So there's always, there's always different options. So I'm never about deprivation. I'm about what can we replace it with that's better quality. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, something my daughter has done, because she has a friend who is lactose, gluten, and egg intolerant.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And she found a brownie recipe that she can make. Now, she usually makes it with like a gluten flour, okay, because a lot of people just like the brownies anyway, but she did actually learn how to do it gluten-free as well. But one of the things that she did in the baking, to replace a lot of the sugars in the liquid, she uses applesauce.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that's great. You can use things like applesauce. I've made brownies with sweet potatoes. Medjool dates are also good as a sweetener. I've even made, now this is not the sweet part, but I've even made brownies with black beans. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So you're getting protein in it, and it's replacing to some extent the flour and the liquid. Now in that recipe, I can't think offhand, but I'm sure it's got either a bit of maple syrup or applesauce or something in it. But yeah, those are great substitutes.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I know that you've also been on a writing journey as well, and you are in the process of putting a chapter into a book. So why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Yes. So just to backtrack a little bit, one of the things I believe very strongly in as an entrepreneur is to have a coach, or a series of coaches or mentors, or, the people that help you. And so I really started working with a business coach, but also a speaking coach.
Mm-hmm.
And she helped me develop some of the, she pulled a lot of things out of me. And talking about, really my story, my, kind of my experiences with depression, not to just sort of gloss over it, but really talk about, how it was and what I experienced. And then I just started increasing my visibility. So on, in social media, as you mentioned before, I was just on global TV and breakfast television.
In Canada?
Sorry?
In Canada. We have listeners from around the world. So that's global television is one of the 3 major television stations in Canada.
Yes. And breakfast television is Toronto, but also national as well. And I just continue to be more, allowing my visibility, to help more women. I wanted to do as well is to do a chapter in a book. So it's really taking some of my presentation of my experience and just developing it a bit more. So yeah, and ultimately I want to go on after that. That's my jumping board to then go on to write a full book. Also thinking about a workbook and or cookbook or some combination thereof. Yeah. So yeah, it's been, I've been evolving over the last, for sure, 3 to 5 years.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just think it's so important to, to get your message out there to help other women,
Yes.
or to help people, because, I had a family member that said to me, why would you share that information? That stigmatism, right? And I just thought, I want to touch more lives. I want people to know that they're not alone,
Yeah.
and that that there can be recovery. I'm in such a better place now, and I say, I don't know with 100% certainty that I will never have the symptoms of IBS, or that I won't experience severe depression again. But I can say with 100% certainty that I am using all the tools and doing everything that I can,
Yes.
um, to not have that. And so that's what I like to share with, with other people as well. I just think that's so important to say, this is where I've been, and this is, this is where I am now. And, others can do that as well.
And I really think there shouldn't be any stigmatisms in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
We all
And
have things that we go through. We're all people. We all have experiences. I don't share this often because it's kind of a woman thing, but I've gone through some very severe woman-related issues reproductively.
mhm.
And I had some really bad periods in my life where I won't get too graphic, but I lost so much blood that I had to go to the hospital.
Mhm.
We all have things that we go through. And I mean, that was a really hard, embarrassing time in my life
Right.
because I was losing so much blood. I couldn't sit on anything. Like, again, not
Yeah.
going into too much detail. So I think people have to get rid of the fact that, the stigmatism. You're being a light in a dark place. And I congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
So we're going to end the show in a minute, but Karen, how can people connect with you if they've heard this and they want to learn more about, being healthy, mind, body, spirit? How can they find out more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so the easiest place is my website, which is karenporter.ca.
Okay.
Very simple. And on my homepage, I've actually got where you can obtain the recipes that I made on the breakfast television segment. And
Nice.
on that segment, it was all about breakfast ideas, regardless of whether you eat your breakfast at 7 or 11 or whenever. I mean, even these things could be, you could have in the afternoon. But really, it's incorporating just great things for your body, for your immune system, for your brain. So yeah, you can get those on my homepage. And so that's like a free guide. And you can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been Karen Porter and Kim Thompson Pinder on the Author to Authority podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you on the very next episode. Bye now.